Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a New Earth One Network Mastery Empowerment course. This is a live Q&A, Heal Yourself and Heal the World. This is living in light immersion. And my guests today are two beautiful healers, Elizabeth Wood and Meg Archambault. They are here to take your questions, and they're also going to share a few of their magical things that make their life healthy and actually heal the world. Let's welcome these two beautiful beings, Meg and Elizabeth. Hello.
Hi, welcome, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here today with my dear friend. I'm so happy. Well, both of you are my friends, so.
Well, this is pretty special because you guys have come together to do this healing package that you're sharing. And so it combines all of the years of your training. And this is something quite special, isn't it? So I'd like to give you both the space, and I'll step back here, to present some of the most important information in today's world. Here we are with a pandemic, and there's lots of fear coming up all around this. This is part of the greater awakening, wake up call, awakening acceleration that's going on. So I'd like just for both of you to check in here and give us really the good pointers on the importance of this work internally that each of us have the opportunity to do.
You go first, Meg.
All right. Well, I think it's no strange thing to all of us how in turmoil it feels and how rough the waters seem out in the world. You know, you can step out your door, you can turn on media, you can read the newspapers, and if you're like me, you can, and if you're sensitive in your body, you can automatically feel a rush of almost tension or fear or anxiety rise up. And so, you know, if you don't have a way to address that, you might go about your day somewhat unconsciously, knowing that that's not even there, but having reactions on the surface, reactions to, you know, people that you approach, people that, you know, cross by you in the grocery store. What's really happening is that because the vibration of the planet is rising and all of our shadow or our unconscious is coming to the surface, it's starting to play out in the world. And so what Elizabeth and I are talking about when we're talking about heal yourself and heal the world is really about the first things first. And that is turning towards yourself and how to come into yourself with kindness and love. And we're going to talk more about this, but come into yourself in order to meet your own parts of yourself with presence and kindness and welcoming and love in order to dissolve these pieces that feel like fear. They're really just contractions and energies that are contracted. But we have some special tools to share, and our program is about those tools. But I think that's a good opening just to say that the chaos is happening out there, and without any tools or way to come home into the center of yourself, it might feel really rough. And I don't know, you'd like to add to that, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I love how you point out looking at the self. It's that self-inquiry, turning to yourself, but it's so gentle. And I think the name of the game, if you're zooming out and really looking at the planet at the moment, is formlessness. And of course, that's so subtle, and it's shifting and breaking down and dissolving all these things that we feel in our bodies as contraction. And we can also call it, say, consciousness under pressure. So all this consciousness under pressure is showing up. And what does that look like? It looks like triggers. It looks like reactions. It looks like trauma. It looks like bad memories. It looks like leaking energy into the past, into the worrying about the future. And both Meg and I came together as married women with children, with a whole household and businesses that we were running. And yet the number one thing on our plate has been for a very long time, consciousness. And so what we wanted was to share how we're able to make consciousness our number one concern every day, how we do that, how we dedicate ourselves to it while having a very 3D life. And So I think it's also showing sort of the new realm right now of where everyone's at. We're being pushed to the edge. We're all on the cutting edge here of healing. It's happening very fast. We're watching the shifting and crumbling in every single realm on the planet. And so I see it as a great opportunity, and so does Meg, about how to be really diligent about old tools, new tools, and living a lifestyle of light. And it takes a lot of dedication and effort, but there can be a great stillness out of it. And then you can ride the waves of change and paradigm shift. And there can be an incredible joy in discovering new layers of trauma. And that's the wild and crazy mindset change that Meg and I always tell people. You're going to fall in love with your triggers. Your triggers are treasure, because every time you work with them, you're going to feel immensely different and better. And every time I end up going through some process, I think it's the worst thing that I've been through, and it'll shift me so physically, so immensely in my whole field and my experience. And then I'll go through the next worst thing, but I know every time where I'm going is into a higher state of consciousness by using the trauma and the pain of reality in order to shift up. So we climb a ladder together through this program. And I love that Meg and I got to do it together like best buddies. And we spent over a year putting this together and put a lot of heart into it, because we do really want you to have the same tools. Does that also resonate with you, Meg?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. We've been doing this together for such a long time. I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, what are some of the most important things? Because you just said a lot there. You said a lot. And so I'm going to pull back and slow down a little bit and say, yeah, it's an opportunity to, instead of be at the bottom of the ocean, being tugged around by the waves and the undercurrent and being pulled in different directions, to find a way to actually use, as you said, those triggers, use the anxiety in the body and the anger that comes up, in order to actually dissolve it, so that you can have more joy, more light, more love, more of your gifts come through, and be a presence, right? It's almost like being a presence in your body, a strong presence in your body around your family, your community, your extended community. And that's really what we talk about as how you heal yourself and heal the world, because you become them, an energy that is transmitted, that is kind of contagious, right? For example, in our household, right, I have a husband, I have a son, and we have the same challenges and issues and struggles and joys that everybody else does. There's a difference, though, in that my husband and I, well, he's kind of mapped to me in a sense, because I've been doing this work a little bit longer. But we always come back to the same place. What are we feeling inside ourselves? What can I do to shift that? So then the energy of the house shifts, and we can go on with our days, rather than getting stuck and tied up and having an argument. Like, none of that happens. Well, it happens occasionally, of course, but then it's a gift, right? Because it allows for more expansion and more togetherness and more closeness. So I love that you brought up the fact that we're just regular people having regular lives, right? And we're not out there, meditating 24/7, but we are bringing this as a way of life into our work. In fact, just yesterday I was talking to a client, and she was talking about how spirituality is, on this hand, and life is on that hand. And that's, I think, how we've been trained to think about it, right? That we have our spiritual practices, but I'm saying, no, these are merged together, that our life is our spiritual practice. And everything and anything that comes up in our life, I tend to now say, okay, this is what my soul, this is what life is bringing to me, sharing with me, showing itself to me, so that I can meet it with my presence, with my gentleness, and really start to unpack it and unfold it in a way that it shows itself to me, and so that it doesn't have to blow up into something else. And it's a beautiful lifestyle. And I think that's what we want to share with people, is that this isn't a once and done thing. This is an ongoing, everyday, becomes a habit, a lifestyle of light, really.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say, isn't that beautiful? This is being so aware. And when we look at how we are in our homes now, for the most part, and some people are alone, and some are, I've heard from people that they're envious. They're like, wow, there's going to be a baby boom from this. And on the other side, I'm like, well, not so fast, because some people, right, everyone's going through their own thing. And I love, Meg, how you said that there's just such an awareness. And when you and your husband recognize something coming up, like, whoa, we're like causing the energy to shift and kind of go in a direction that's not so smooth. I mean, it happens to all of us. I've been married 27 years, and it's like, it just is another, I love how you said opportunity to unravel it and to turn inward and to dismantle those energies. And it really is just a beautiful awakening if we're able to do that. Do you have any advice for people who are not able to do that, or kind of just, right? I mean, we're talking presence on such a deep level, right?
Yeah.
Well, I actually got into a fight with my husband the other day. I'll tell you what happened, because this is a perfect example. We also rarely fight. And what it was about was actually the energy that he was coming at a really important project with. And because I'm so sensitive, being a psychic and feeling everything, it really affects me. So I really wanted to help him shift through it, but I didn't want to force him, because he doesn't have as long of training in this particular kind of work as I do. And I'm aware of that. And so we have to be very gentle with our friends and family, with people and ourselves, and saying, you know what? It doesn't matter where I start. If I just begin now, that's good enough. Taking a brick out of a dam is terrifying for most people, because there's so much pressure behind that one brick. And that's really important to acknowledge. So with my husband, I was trying to show him that there's a foundation that he was trying to build his project on, and it wasn't self-love. It wasn't care of himself and his work. It was actually worthlessness. And he was really suffering through this project for days, several days, to the point so it really built up. And I kept trying to point it out to him, and didn't get better, because he couldn't see it. All he could think of was, if he could finish the project, then he'd suddenly be better. And I'm like, no, this is there's this big linchpin underneath it. And so that's the first mindset shift: is nothing is as it seems. It's the problem's not the problem. Usually there's something underneath it that's being pinged. The project was pinging this structure, this dense, contracted consciousness under pressure. It was pinging his worthlessness stuff, his fear of failure. And then it was a structure built on that, so that he couldn't see the foundation anymore. But I could feel it. And so we ended up fighting, because I wouldn't give up. I'm pointing it out, saying, you're still flustered, you're still frustrated, you're still angry about your project, you're weaving that energy into what you're creating. And he was saying, no, if I'm just done with it, then everything will be okay. So that's why we fought, because he was having a hard time seeing this. Finally, it sort of broke down to the point where I said, so I mirrored back to him. And here's another tool: mirroring back to people what they're experiencing, because he didn't think I was understanding him. And so in order to make sure he knew that I did, I mirrored it back to him, exactly what he had said to me. And then I said, I understand that that's what you're feeling and experiencing, and that's not what I see. And so may I please, with consent, explain what I'm seeing. When I did, because I actually stopped trying to get him to see my viewpoint and really just mirrored back exactly what he was saying and feeling. And you can do this for yourself too. What am I feeling really right now? I'm really angry. Where is it in my body? It's in my heart. Are there any memories showing up around this? This is self-inquiry. You're asking yourself important, vital questions that no one usually has ever asked you most of the time. So once he finally saw this, there was this big, huge release, a release to see, you're right. I've been building my whole music career, not just this project, on my worthlessness. And then this subtle shift, because what do you do with that? You welcome it. It's there. It exists. There's nothing wrong with what has occurred, only for learning. So there's this subtlety about how when you finally see it and you just allow it to exist, that it really begins to dissolve. You find it in your body, you merge with it. And I think that for those who, this is a good example because it's stuff you can do for yourself if you're alone and you're having trouble. But it's also stuff we can do with our mindset shift for our friends and family immediately. Mirroring back what they're saying with compassion, noticing what they're really experiencing, getting consent to give your vantage point, making sure you're asking yourself these questions, the top one being, where is this in my body? Because the trauma is hidden deep inside the embodiment and it'll move around, but it's there in layers, and we're working at stilling, making the emotional body still. And so far, since all this has occurred, the past several days, my husband has been peaceful, like a dreamy lamb.
I like that.
There's more stillness. Would you like to talk about your viewpoint too, Meg, on this?
That's beautiful. That stillness is great. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what to add. I love the self-inquiry, of course. And I think, Lorraine, you were pointing to what if people don't have these tools? One of my think is where to start, when you're in any rough waters, and I like to use this analogy when I'm working with someone too, any rough waters could be a trigger emotion. You come downstairs and the other person's in a bad mood. And you're triggered by that, right? And you're just, you're in the river with them. So I think of the river as being like the rapids, where you're in your unconscious and you're being tossed around by the waves. You're hitting the rocks, and it's not a good time. And so the very first thing that any of us can do is pull ourselves out of the rapids, pull ourselves off the river into the riverbanks, where we can sit as a witness, because that's the very first thing, right? For any of us, we can't, like you said, you can't solve the problem at the layer of a problem. You can't process a trauma in the trauma itself. You can't process a trigger when you're in the trigger itself. You actually have to come to the riverbanks. You have to find a way to zoom out, step back, however you want to see it, so that you can start to be the witness and say, oh, I see what's happening. Right? That brings the observer on board. That brings a little bit of the alignment on board. You can also think of it in terms of a learner. What can I learn from this? And that's another way to get yourself on the riverbank, to say, okay, I see what's happening. We're in a pattern. We're doing it again, right? Or I'm doing it again, whatever the pattern is, right? So my husband and I have this joke kind of thing. And this is the fun output of it, is that once you see each other's, patterns, you can be a little bit more light with them, because they're not going to change overnight, right? We still have this thing where I'm the, I make him wrong sometimes, because I can be spiritually superior, right? Because that's one of the things that can really solidify when you do this work. And so if I'm superior in that, guess what he has to be? He has to be inferior. We are two puzzles that fit together. And so I get a chance to look at myself and say, okay, where am I feeling this in my body? And as you said, process my own reactions, but only after I'm on the riverbank, only after I'm looking back in and saying, oh, I'm in a trauma. Let me come out of it. Let me come to the riverbanks, be the witness. Then I can emotionally process, which we talk about that with lots of tools. And you mentioned a whole lot of tools right there, Elizabeth. One of which is simply thanking the trigger, the process. I think you didn't mention that one, but that's a good one too, to say, you know, why would we thank a trigger or a process? Well, once you've done this enough times, you can see that it's actually, right, we said it's the way out. It's a portal out to more awakening and more light and more joy. So then you can thank it and say, well, thank you for coming to the surface, trigger. Thank you for helping me see more of my spiritual superiority so that I can slowly chip away, right, at dissolving it through my awareness, through my gratitude, through my actual coming into stillness and really, really being with myself and saying, okay, you know, so let me shift that inside me and come into gratitude. Let me thank my husband for his generosity, right? Because he's so generous with what he does around the house, with work, and really find ways to just come back to a soul connection, right? Rather than a trigger to trigger. If I can come into my soul, if I can come back into myself and be in that still place, then guess what? It's like dropping the rope, right? You and I oftentimes talk about if there's a tug of war, if there's a trauma and a trauma, or trigger and a trigger. If one person can just drop the rope, get out of the pattern, get out of the cycle or the spin, and become the witness and say, okay, I'm not engaging in that particular battle drama anymore. I'm going to watch it. Then my whole energy shifts. And I can just, for me, just like laugh or give a smile to my husband or just go hug him. And his whole body will go, okay, we don't have to do this anymore. We don't have to do this. It's just something that came up for us both to work on. So is that helpful, Lauren, to answer that?
Thank you, ladies, both so much. Yes, I mean, this is the finer workings of really being attentive to that and doing that work. And so shifting the patterns and shifting the energy, I want to go back to the tool that you said, Elizabeth, because, all right, so in shifting the energy and mirroring back to someone, let's talk a little bit more about the exacual, the attitude of the mirror. If someone is heated or really frustrated, are you going to mirror that frustration, or are you going to take something out of that shows the vulnerability or the unworthiness? Are you using words to mirror back? Can you describe that a little bit more?
I'd happy to, yeah. So you're going to notice that there's an energetic with someone. Normally, let's say they're angry, like my husband was. Normally, you can feel the anger first because your heart feels quite big, so it's going to pick up that frequency. And then we react. That's how normal humans, without this particular mindset shift, tend to function. And we call that a reaction. So with this mindset, you're in witness mode and you're not owning the energy. You're going to feel it, sure, but you're not owning it. It's not yours. So that's how the mirroring starts, saying, where is this energy coming from? Is it mine? No, it's not. Okay. So here's this angry situation. They're not feeling heard. There's something that's making them upset. So for me, in this case, I literally said, I hear you. And that's a good place to start. I hear you. You're so upset and angry. And then to make sure I knew what he needed me to hear, I said, I realize you've said this a lot. Would you please say again exactly why you feel so frustrated? When he told me exactly what he was feeling, I literally said it back to him. Okay, if I'm hearing you right, this and this and this are going on, and you feel that. If you get through this project, you're going to be fine. And that all of this frustration is going to go away. Is that right? I didn't add a but. I didn't add an and, like I love you, but, or all this and I didn't add an I, because it's not me. It's not mine. This is this beautiful soul in front of me, and I get to co-create a bunch of trauma ping pong, or I'll co-create a whole other situation instead. So I'm not going to play the game like Meg was saying. And once he could feel heard, there's a shift. And when you play with this, you'll see people, they'll go like that, or their shoulders will relax, or they'll change their face, or they'll breathe. And so once that happens, that's when you can ask, may I give you my perspective? It's different than yours. And sometimes people are going to say no. And you've got to be all right with that because they're not ready yet. And you can say, that's okay. Maybe we'll talk about it later. If you'd like to hear what I'm seeing, I really want to share it with you, and leave it at that. In this case, he did want to hear what I had to say. So without making it his, I'm owning my vantage point. And I'm saying, what I think is going on is that there's a foundation of worthlessness that's been hidden underneath all your projects. And so I describe what I'm seeing, and I own what I'm seeing. And I said, this is just my opinion. This is what I'm seeing from the outside. Do you think that this is useful or true? And he did. And by doing it that way, we cleared up several days worth of revving up in anger and all this frustration by being very careful. So yes, we do have to use words very carefully. But the first thing, always first, is not owning the other stuff that's going on with folks and not taking it in so you can bounce it back with your reactions. And that's the biggest mindset shift. Then there's the practice, because repeating something back exactly to somebody is really awkward at first. And then you get used to it. And then you actually begin to enjoy it because you can see how miraculous it is to see somebody feel heard for once. And it can be really beautiful. So that's the technique in detail.
As we look at the world around us, so many people are being heard now. Everyone is beginning to speak. This is a shift going on where we've been saying this for decades, that there will come a point where people will no longer tolerate. So we're seeing that on a massive level on the outer world. But thank you for sharing this technique and this tool to mirror back in situations like this. It's very helpful. When you're talking about this, it comes to mind that this is real diplomacy. I want to use that word diplomacy, where we really care about others. We're not putting, like you said, Meg, we tend to be spiritually superior just because we live this and we're so excited about it that we want to talk about it all the time. And for others who are not so deeply into it, it could be tiresome or exhausting. I know my family says that to me at times. So it's the word diplomacy, in using those words that actually hear someone, and it's empathic and considerate when you're mirroring back to someone. So that's very, very helpful. Thank you. And I can see how that does heal the world, doesn't it? We have a funny saying, when we're triggered like that, we could just say, thank you for helping me clear that.
Exactly.
We have some questions coming in here. And so there is Carolyn who says, help, actually. In meditation, I feel like waves of what feels like blurps of anxiety, and it feels awful. Is this me so out there, so open of me resisting? This person asks. I don't like meditating because it's scary and hurts. Like my head falling backwards. I can just be in meditation. Help. Thank you. Carolyn says, I'm a 57 years old galactic empath who feels so much, and it's been quite a ride.
Mm. Poor empaths. All the empaths get a rough. If I may, Meg, I'd like to point a couple things out to her and then let you come in with your gratitude, compassion, your beautiful skills here. So first, I would say, my friend, meditation shouldn't hurt. So because it's hurting, you need to try a different kind. And I actually would like to suggest one that I find incredibly powerful, because as a seer, I can't just close my eyes and meditate. Yeah, right. Good luck. but I can do gazing. And so doing open eye gazing is very easy and straightforward. I encourage you to look it up, but all you need is something to gaze at. I prefer the Sri Yantra because there's good science behind that particular form. So it's called the Sri Yantra, SRIYANTRA, and it's a design. And that design actually draws you into a very specific center point, and you're going to gaze at it with the picture about 3 to 4 feet, perhaps 5 feet, depending on how comfortable you are. Or you can pick a flower or something natural, or you could just go outside or whatever and pick a point that's right there at that eye line, but central, and you're just going to gaze at it. And the good news is not only does it calm the mind immediately, it feels really nice, but you're only really supposed to do it for like 5 minutes. And so I think if meditation is hurting you, you're going to want to look at doing deeper emotional processing. As an empath, because you're feeling so much, empaths often try to identify what's in their field. Stop doing that. Go inward, go back into your body, go deep into your body. Ask if there's anything here for me that's mine, then I want to experience it. Otherwise, whatever you are in the field, I give you permission to go up, down, or out, wherever you got to go. Go on. Use my field to move on through. When you try to identify stuff in your field as an empath, whether it be your family, the town, the planet, or the galaxy, doesn't matter. It's actually moving through your field, and it needs you because you're a big, huge hurricane of energy. That's why you're feeling so much, because your field is so big. Let it move. When you don't, and you try to identify it, it backs everything up, and it makes you feel crazy and overwhelmed. And then everybody becomes agoraphobic and hides. And that's not going to work because your field is constantly picking things up. When you let it do its job and don't resist it, and only keep asking, what is mine? What belongs here? Whatever is mine, I'm welcoming you to stay in my personal field. My outer field is going to be moving, doing lots of work. I don't even have to control that. But whatever's mine is here. It's in my body. And so command it. Whatever is not mine, move on through. Whatever's mine, I want to feel you. I want to go into you. And when you do that, then you can begin to use other deeper techniques to move the layers of stuff in the what should be the still space of your body and emotional body. You can get more embodied. You can feel more powerful as an empath. And I think then you'll find that then you can meditate. We meditate to bring in more light when we've removed junk out of the way, especially the trauma in our bodies. And that's the best time to meditate, is after you've done an emotional process. So I think thinking of those 3 shifts for you will be much less painful. Give it a try. But Meg, what other ideas come up for you for this person?
Well, when I'm sitting in your field, and I'm just sitting and imagining that I'm you, and how awful that would feel, right? And so I just want to have just take a moment as I'm with you here, you know, even energetically, to give yourself some slack, to have some grace for yourself, that you want this so bad to have a different experience, and what's showing up is not what you want, and that's a hard place to be. So I always tend to want to start with having some kind of generosity towards myself, right? And so we're just both going to put some generosity on you and say, yes, there's a reason that this is happening. So instead of making it wrong or a wrong experience, or you're doing something wrong, it's like, no, there's something perfect about this. We may not know intellectually right now, but we can trust that there's a reason that you're having this experience, that you're feeling this anxiety. And that even before figuring it out is just turning to yourself and saying, wow, there's something going on here. I'm taking myself out of the river, onto the riverbanks, and being the witness and saying, oh, this is my experience. Let me just look at it with as a neutral witness. And as you said, it's not pleasant, right? And so even look at the not pleasantness and say, yeah, I don't want to be there. So you can do those suggestions that Elizabeth said, of course, but it's a matter of starting with understanding that there's a reason that this is happening, and to have grace with yourself, and to then slowly, right, look at the anxiety as a place in your body, right, as a frequency, if you want to say it, but as a place in your body. Like for me, I experience anxiety right below my ribs, right in the solar plexus. And if you touch there right now, you might even just want to touch there right now and see if it's tender. Because if it's tender, there might be some of the residual energies in there, and pain and anxiety. And so you can just drop your awareness, if it's in your brain, down through your heart, right into the solar plexus, and just put it right there right now. And just as we're doing that, all of us right now, we're just putting our non-judgmental awareness on it right now. You can feel like my lower belly just starts to drop, and some of the whole inner tightness in there just starts to unclench. Because sometimes it's just the fight against the anxiety that causes it to get louder. And so we're just kind of saying, okay, I see you. Let me put a little bit of my awareness on there. Just that little bit of awareness allows the anxiety to be seen. Just like our partners want to be seen, our friends, our family, it wants to be seen. Okay, now I can do some of those techniques. Does that seem helpful? I hope that's helpful.
Yes. Very, very helpful, ladies. Thank you so much. And boy, we have touched a topic. Some have said, are you in my house? They're reporting similar issues with the spouse. And it really is very, very interesting. And we've been seeing this for months now, are where we can go to get in, and these triggers, especially in the home and the family, and then the balance that's required, the harmony that's required. So you ladies are giving us really good tools to use in this. I want to go to Deborah's question. She's the one who says, are you in my home right now? LOL. I can't believe what you're saying specifically about spouse to spouse. Me as the spiritual one in the relationship, I do try a bit harder to shift us out of patterns. But the last few days, personally, in a sidebar, I say the last few days, this week, energy was weird. That's Loren personally saying that. And she says the last few days, it's been so wrapped up in work that she's not been able to shift out of the patterns and do this. And the energy between the two of them has become very strained. So a question, am I the one that has to always be the observer and then transformer of energy between us? I feel like that in itself is a lot on my plate energetically. So any ideas to shift this?
Wow. Well, let's just, is that okay, Elizabeth? I'll jump on this one. Let's just do this particular exercise of watching what's happening, standing back, and you did a great job of explaining it. And you can feel a little bit of the, it's not an annoyance, but almost like I don't want to be the person that's always transforming. And I can understand that a lot. In fact, I said that just the other day to Elizabeth in a conversation. I have a relative, and I'm like, how come I'm always the one, you know? So we've got to turn towards ourselves, right? First of all and foremost, with gratitude and saying, yeah, you've been doing a great job. Like, wow, yes, you have been holding a lot of space. You have been allowing for a lot of transformation, and you're tired. I get that. And so, you know, the thing that I have to always come back to for myself when I get in that place, and maybe this will be helpful, is how am I, or how could I better resource myself, right? Because that's what it comes down to, is I'm feeling drained. I'm putting all my effort in my work. I might not have enough alone time. I may not be feeling like I'm getting energy from somewhere. And so what are the things that are my go-tos for my meditation cushion, or a walk outside, or grounding in nature, but coming back into your home, maybe adding an extra, if you do meditate, adding an extra 15, 20 minutes just to feed yourself, to nurture yourself, the awareness, the attention, the presence inside your body that you need. So I can just feel it shifting right now a little bit, and just allowing the energy to even just go down into the ground. I know Mother Earth right now is really great at just receiving all of this, tenseness that we are just shaking off. And so sometimes, like Elizabeth said, just, lift it up, down, or out. Sometimes it just wants to go down, down and out. I think of just flushing it out of my system, right? And being a compost for the earth. Okay, then I can come back to myself, right? Then I can say, okay, yes, I don't have to always be the one, but right now I am. And the only other thing that's coming to me right now is, and this is a phrase that was taught to me a long, long time ago, which is look at my results, and that's my unconscious intention. Now that's really tricky, but it sounds like you're kind of on the edge of wanting this, right? I would ask myself, how am I setting up the relationship so that I get to be the one who's always holding the energy, doing the processing? There's something that I might be getting out of it, with curiosity, and allowing that to be a possibility, not saying no, 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 but just being like, oh, maybe I get a little something out of that. I get a little boost of energy. I get to hide my own inferiority or worthlessness. That could be something too. Or maybe it's just I get to feel like I'm contributing, but there could be something in there that's like a little bit of a desire, right? One of the things that Elizabeth and I do a lot is we teach and we work with polarities, right? The push and a pull, black and white, worthlessness, arrogance. And so there might be something in your relationship with your husband where you're holding one side of a polarity and he's holding the other side. I'd actually even get curious, ask him how he feels, right? Find out how he feels either in a moment in the relationship when you're feeling the energy kind of perhaps different, right? And maybe there's a readiness for a shift in the relationship that's not being spoken just because you've been in the same pattern, but maybe he's wanting to say something, and it can shift. And then you can break down and dissolve that particular dynamic that you have. That's what I'm seeing. How about you, Elizabeth? Anything else?
Yeah, and I would point out, you can always ask yourself with the top 3 polarities, because we'll often play these particular polarities in strained situations. And the energy I feel is like, how you got 2 magnets and they want to come together, but they're actually opposite in that moment, and they're kind of like being forced apart, and how awkward it feels to try to put them together like that. And that irritation, it builds up like static electricity until there's a discharge, which we would call a fight or a breakdown. Totally normal, right? But this is deep compassion for yourself, I think, is key beginning always. And Meg is absolutely right to turn towards yourself and say, you know what? I am the one who is a great leader in my family. And I do get something out of that. And I care that much. I'm dedicated that much to consciousness. And that's why. And that's okay. That's my dedication. And owning that. So you got to own your position, and you can be positive about it. So the 3 polarities that you can always ask about are victim tyrant, worthlessness and arrogance, and abundance and scarcity. And so here we have a job situation, which makes it so that you are both productive and distracted, which all work is, both productive and sometimes distracting. And then, of course, we've got the situation, and that's going to be, I got to focus in on our abundance here kind of piece. And then sometimes we feel like the other person is doing things to us, and we forget that nobody can really make us feel anything, that we're feeling it because we want to feel it, because we're trying to experience it some way, shape, or form for learning. And so just owning your feelings. I do feel frustrated. I can see the difference between his frustration and mine. What is mine? Where does mine show up in the body? Do I feel like he's doing it to me? Have I set myself up as victim here? Or have I set myself up as the tyrant here, being the wife who Now he thinks I'm a nag because I'm telling him all the time how to do a shift and he doesn't do it. And so he's set himself up in victimhood, and me as the tyrant. All of these have happened probably in your marriage, sometimes all at once. And then the other one is going to be worthlessness and arrogance. Usually at the bottom of everything is some piece of that. And notice too in yourself, if there's worthlessness there, there's going to be some kind of arrogance. I'd love to cover up my worthlessness with my arrogance. And I'll say, yeah, I have loads of arrogance. I have loads of ego, but I'm hiding too all of my deep, deep core worthlessness underneath that, where there's this incredible amount of self-hate that I've learned and stored up that I'm chipping away at. So then I can't just escape by looking at arrogance, which is sometimes way more pleasant, because I know deep down through practice, yeah, there's definitely going to be a balance. However much this is, there's going to be some of this too. And it's either going to be triggered in somebody else or it's going to be inside of you. So keep that in mind as you're moving forward, and do that peaceful recentering as much as you can. The more you can welcome your own feelings in your body, own them, notice how you don't necessarily have to feel the things that get thrown your way. You can, in gratitude, let them move through. And that then, because it doesn't mean that Meg and I don't get mad or sad or worthless or arrogant. It means that we notice it because we have maintained a witness state all the time, and we let it move through. And if it pings something in us, perfect. Then we know exactly what to look at in a deeper personal process time, where we go in and find it in the body and welcome it, and gently, gently let it unravel so it gives you a gift of light and expansiveness. And when you're in that super calm state in your field, because your field is so big, because you're the one who's the leader of the spiritual journey here of the family, because your field is so big, that deep peace in you is going to dramatically affect your family members. And you can begin to watch it slowly shift and unfold. So that's the cool part too, is watching the inner peace expand out. And that's why we do say, this is how you heal the world, by healing yourself. The only place you can really act in the first moment of everything that shows up is you. And so giving yourself that power back, being the soul in charge, that then gives you a chance to lift the light a little higher, so people can see their own stuff more clearly, and everybody can calm down and begin to be more still and have a quiet mind, and be like my husband right now, this peaceful lamb. And it's wonderful. It's cool. It takes some practice, but this is your dedication. That's why you're always the one for a long time who's been noticing this stuff. And I think that's important to give yourself some kudos, just like Meg said.
Thank you. Thank you. So helpful. Really, really helpful. Here is a question from Sue. Sue asks, how do I help my husband connect to us? It feels like he runs from us, and I don't know how to ground him emotionally. Do you have some advice for Sue?
I think I'll bounce in on this one real quick. So first off, when our husbands this is for the masculine right now. I'm going to speak to the men. I'm not going to speak as a wife to the men. I'm going to speak to the men as a friend of the masculine and point out, and this is how you'll approach it, Sue, and point out to the men, you have been hurt just as much as anyone by this culture, by the patriarchy, by the structures and powers that be. You are hurt. And he can't connect because he's in pain. He can't connect because he's holding an entire dam in place every single second, trying his very best not to let it break. That takes an incredible amount of effort. It's not that he doesn't want to connect, it's that he's spending every ounce of his conscious and subconscious holding it together. What's behind the dam? Incredible amounts of pain and tears. And it's all being held in place by this wall that has been protecting his heart, especially his power center, from feeling all the agony again and again through his trauma that gets pinged regularly. And so, guys, they wear armor around their embodiment and they protect their hearts because they feel so physically deeply. They feel it in their heart and gut really, really strongly. And they try to escape mentally. And so, if he is constantly seeming distracted, it's because he's in pain. And all his mind is being put to keeping that dam together. Notice that, just be with it. Be in absolute unconditional compassion. Let him know that being hurt right now is exactly perfect, that it's okay for him to feel that way. It's okay for him not to feel like he can't connect, that is okay. I want to point something out that's a little silly at first, but it's actually kind of incredibly powerful for the masculine. When growing up, my favorite character from Pooh was Eeyore, because Eeyore was depressed like me, but none of the, and sad, and he was just trying to hold it together. I mean, the guy couldn't even keep his tail on. So, but none of his friends treated him any different. They all said, that's okay. Eeyore's always going to come to our parties and we're going to have a blast and be silly and bounce around and eat honey. And he's going to be there and we want him there just how he is. And that's how we need to treat our men right now. All of our brothers and our partners and our fathers and granddads, everybody, all of the guys, they really need us to just let them be exactly who they are and say, you know what? You're not kicked out of this party. We want you here however you are. And that's the first step. When you do that and they are allowed to be hurt and allowed to wear armor and allowed to be in pain and just trying to hold it together, there's softening that begins right there in that step. Just start there and then work on you and any of your reactions and triggers and attachments to his outcomes. And if you do that, then you're going to witness more and more softening, because then you won't react to his difficulties connecting. You're going to be in full gratitude of his presence, however he is, because he is a king of his heart. And you're going to remind him of that and how much you love him just as he is. And that's a great gift you can give to the men right now. And I think all the men need to be able to hear that. What do you think, Meg?
That was beautiful. I agree 100%. And I think the only thing that was popping up to be added was, how do we know, I would be sitting in her shoes saying, how do I know what he's going through? And since the outer is the inner, one of the ways to diagnose that is to say, use the words you just said, he's not connecting with us. He's running from us. What does that mean? That means he's not connecting with himself. He's running from himself because he wasn't given the tools. He doesn't know how to turn inward and to go towards himself. And I think we underestimate the lack of self-worth that our men relatives have, that they're carrying around just as much worthlessness or arrogance, but still it's a cover-up for worthlessness. And these times are hard, especially if somebody's out there trying to work or do the traditional masculine role, uphold the role of the family and bring in the money or whatever his role is. I'm sure there's some self rejection there, because it's up for all of us. They just show it in a different way. We might go and call up a girlfriend, or we might talk to someone else or get a session, right? And they're trying to just figure it out on their own, and they don't know how. They don't have the tools. So I agree with what you said, Elizabeth. Then we can become the nurturance to them, instead of adding to the pain of, you're doing something wrong, you're not connecting with us, and then we make them wrong, and that layers on top of their wrongness that they feel, and then they just feel more like they need to contract and pull away. We can say, just as you said, I see you, I feel how challenging this is, and I'm here to help you, just let you be, but not adding to that is one of the big pieces, because they need some space to figure it out, and we can teach them how to go inside. That's one of our gifts, but they're the true holder of the heart. Men, I know our teacher says that men hold their bodies, up here in the upper half, right? So their heart is so big. Women hold their energies more in the hips, and our stomach, our womb space is our power center. But they're just so filled with love. All they want to do is love and take care of us. And so there's a hard part there where they're not taking care of themselves, or they're rejecting themselves, and then they have to pull away. So I hope that helps to diagnose a little bit and see it, from another perspective. But I agree with what you said, Elizabeth, and I feel confident that she can do that.
Yes. All right, Sue. Good luck with that, sweetie. So, there's some good books that come to mind. Oftentimes we're asked, when we have folks who are we care about our loved ones. And this brings to mind that we ascend through our relationships, right? These relationships, all of them, our family, allow us to ascend. That's what both of you are sharing today. And this inward journey to focus on those triggers and turn them into your joy. And so when we share books, I've got a couple of books, but they don't always resonate with people. Like, my favorite is Conversations with God. That's like an entry-level book for people. Another is The Untethered Soul. Do you both have any books that come to mind for people to share with their spouses or family to kind of warm them up to this idea?
I guess I'll jump in, Elizabeth, just because I was saying this the other day. It was a trick that I did. But I'm not as good with, or not as good. I have not shared as many books, with my family. But what's really big right now, energetically, are YouTubes, right? So like this as a replay, or I was recently listening to the Ramana Maharshi videos, and I just simply let them on the YouTube and turned off the TV and went to bed. And just so happened that my husband woke up and turned the TV on, and there it was, right there.
Gazing. Oops.
Right. It wasn't even a here, watch this. Because I've tried that. I've sent, I sent text. I've sent texts with links and things like that. Hey, you're working all night. He works at night. Could you, watch this tonight, so we're on the same page? Sometimes he will. He totally honors and respects, because I've learned to approach him in a totally equal way, not where I'm trying to teach him or do anything for him. He'll really honor that. But he said, hey, I watched this thing that was on the TV this morning and I really enjoyed it. Right. And I think I'm going to watch some more of that. And that was like, wow, yeah, okay, that sounds good, honey. I like that. And then also our teacher's teacher, Rama, has a whole bunch of CDs that I got mailed to me, and I didn't need him, but he cleaned them for me because they were all stuck in little, sleeves. He's like, I'm gonna take some of these in my car and see if they work. Good job, right? It's like, and so he's been playing them. They'll come up on his music every once in a while, and he just loves connecting with the masculine teacher. And that was one of the gifts that he said, like that was great, because he wants to. He truly wants to. He just isn't as, wired. We aren't wired the same. So I think it's more of finding what resonates for him, right, than for me. What do you think, Elizabeth?
Yeah, this one's hard because my husband won't read. And I think that is a kind of a funny, interesting piece. So for him, the Ramana Maharishi was actually something that he really resonated with. And that's a much older style masculine teacher. And then the other thing that I've noticed lately that will really help him is, I think, small bits and pieces of things. Like, sometimes I have this ebook called Healing the Three Minds, and I wrote the whole section about the heart, specifically with guys in mind. And I'll tell people, just print out that section. Don't print out the rest of it. And because it's just a couple of pages, and it's got multiple tools and descriptions that are very straightforward and simple. That is about as much as my husband would read. um, because he doesn't really have time to, but he'll listen to things too. So another thing, I think Rama is a good person, and people could go to ramatalks.com and you could listen to his work, especially the Lakshmi talks. That's our teacher's teacher. Megan, our teacher, her name is Lucia Renee. She wrote the book Unplugging the Patriarchy. If guys like a mystery book that's, got some interesting occult vantage point, that's also a true story, that would be a good one. And then if people want to introduce their partners to interesting concepts around polarities and healing polarities using the mind, men really enjoy, especially The Marriage of Spirit by Leslie Temple Thurston. And that book is about the marriage of spirit and body. It's the first concept of full body enlightenment. And it's got all these really cool, very heady mental practices that help you. And they're really straightforward. There's squares, there's triangles, it uses geometry, and it uses very clear mental practices around duality and polarities. And that helps to begin to mentally break down and be in a witness state and break down programming and notice polarities as they're showing up. And so those are the ones that come to mind that would be most useful for the masculine at the moment. And I think it's kind of cool that both of our husbands like some of the same stuff, and that's telling. Neither of us knew that right now. So that's
Thank you. Very, very good. Awesome. All right. We've got some more questions here. We've got one. Here we go. This is from Holly in Tennessee. As parents, especially during these times, we express anger and the children feel it. What do you suggest we tell our children to help them not be hurt or not hold on to that anger?
Go for it, Meg. What comes to mind?
Well, first, I want to just sit with the question and thank Holly. That's, a beautiful study, right? And this is why we're here, to use our daily life to say, okay, this is going to help wake me up, right? So obviously, there's times where we're not present enough to go inward towards our anger or to self-process, and it comes out. And it could be scary. I know that that's one of the things that I was harmed with as a child, that I had a father who had temper tantrums and would throw his glasses or his cigarettes. And it caused me, the end result is to contract and to go inward, and to be very, very quiet and an introvert so that I wouldn't make noise. So I know the end result of what it feels like when there's anger in the household. And so we want to dissipate that, right, for our kids and not have that happen again. And so one of the things to always my senses come back to is connection and love, right? Well, first of all, keep working on ourselves so that we can be more of the master of the emotion, so that it may not go as outward as possible, but that you can excuse yourself to really come inward and process the anger, feel where it is in your body, right? Usually anger is in my lower belly, and really allow that to, whether you stomp it out or express it out. The thing that we teach in this Heal Yourself to Heal the World is really that it's not about an old style of getting your anger out, hitting a pillow. This is really an intricate, gentle process of coming inward to meet where the anger is in the body, to bring the presence right there where it is in the gut, and to allow it to have an expression through your breath or through just the presence. And that way you can dissolve it rather than letting it explode in the house. But if it does explode, what I would do right away as soon as possible is to make a physical contact with my child and to pull them close, to let them know that this is a natural expression of how I'm feeling right now. And it's nothing to be, afraid of. That I'm learning too. I am human, right? I would be vulnerable and say, I'm learning too, to not to express this. And these are really challenging times. And I want you to know, of course, that it wasn't your fault. It's nothing that you did. And so that they can understand that this is life. We are here in the middle of life. There's going to be anger and sadness and grief and loss. And the more that I can learn how to process it myself from a mature vantage point, that I'm the soul in charge and I am processing these emotions, then they're going to map. My kids are going to map to that process automatically. And then I'm going to have whoopses or mistakes or times I forget. And then they'll map to that and say, and I'll apologize and say, I didn't mean to do that because that was just me. I was tired. Next time I will do something differently. Next time I will make sure I'm getting the rest I need or take care of myself. So how about you, Elizabeth? What would you do?
I love that. And as you know, Meg, I'm very transparent about my struggles with how I've treated my kids and continuing to heal all of that. So I relate to this entirely. My mom was very angry growing up, and it was very hard for everyone because it's like a bomb going off. And then when everyone's trapped together in the house and trying new things like homeschooling, even, it's going to just magnify it. So first, zooming out, noticing the situation is going to magnify everything, and that anything troublesome that shows up really needed to be looked at. So we just accept that that's occurring at the moment, that we are in a situation and we're the creators of it. And part of that creation sometimes is going to be learning what needs to be looked at when we couldn't see it as well before. So that situation magnifies everything. Second is, no one is born knowing how to parent. Pretty much nobody is taught either. So you end up as a parent, no one's ever ready and ever. And you end up trying your very best. And then slowly but surely, you realize that you have some of these habits, these programs, these traumas that your parents had too. And oh, by golly, you know, I can't even control my anger when it shows up. And I'm talking about me because it's so rare for me to have it. So I've shoved it down. I've actually hidden all my anger away in my body. And when it comes up, I have zero control. It's terrifying. And when that has occurred, the first thing I need to do is, when I've realized that I need to get out of the situation, I'll do the best I can to make myself some space. And then I go in and I welcome it, welcome the anger. If you try to run away from it, it will get shoved more deeply into your body. You go into it, you welcome it, you merge with it so it doesn't have power over you anymore. It needs you to look at it so it doesn't have to come up again. And there's going to be layers of it. So I'd welcome that. And then and this is important, you've got to process your guilt immediately after going from your outburst to moving through the anger, letting it move through you, to trying to make sure you nip that guilt in the bud, because that guilt is going to linger and it's going to hurt and it actually distorts your heart field. And what you're trying to do, here's the goal. In that moment, real time, you're trying to get your emotional body to be still so it doesn't have a big charge on it. When you go to try to deal with the issue that made the anger arise in the first place, you want to have zero charge on it. And when you go to your kids and you say, and we should, and this is why I think my parents and I can be friends still after all of what we've gone through and being the oldest of 7, etc., is that they did say that they were sorry. My dad, when he would have an outburst, shortly afterwards, I watched him do this, and that's what you're going to show your kids, exactly how to do it. You're a guide. Parenting is about being a guide. These little kids are people too, and we underestimate just actually how young they really are most of the time because they can talk. And sometimes they'll say these genius things, but they really are only 4. And we forget that we're the souls in charge. We forget in that moment that we're actually full of our own traumatized children. inside of us. And what happens when somebody's under pressure? They end up actually acting most of the time. And notice this, I end up acting as one of the younger, more traumatized versions of me. And so I'll end up acting as a 16-year-old to my husband, or I'll end up acting as a super angry 10-year-old to my 6-year-old. And, or my parents, I would see them and it'd be like, they're both 8 and they're like, and they're fighting and they're both 8 years old. They're talking like 8-year-olds. It's fascinating how those inner traumatized selves, they have a lot to say and they have a lot of feelings that need to be addressed. So noticing that, coming into that stillness, working yourself into a moment of no charge, especially welcoming any guilt, just allowing it, being compassionate to it, letting it soften with your attention and your inner attention on your core self, that stillness being the goal. Then you go apologize for the outburst. You let them know, like, I love you so much. I really don't want to fight. Let's solve this problem a different way. Let's try to use some tools together. And no matter how old they are, when you treat them like that and you say, we can do this together, bam, you just empowered them and elevated them to be able to be a creator of the situation too. And then one of the things I like to do with my kids is I'll say, when I get angry, how does it make you feel? Because then they actually go inwards for themselves. And they'll say, well, it feels really bad, or sometimes they'll have very few descriptors. Sometimes they will. Where does it show up in your body when you feel bad, when mom's angry at you? Oh, my tummy. Usually they can know this stuff, but you're training them to notice. And you just say, you know what? Welcome your tummy feeling not good. Take a deep breath. Deep breathing is something my kids can easily watch me do, and it changes the energy immediately. So we deeply breathe. Sometimes my anger sets off my little Leo 6-year-old daughter, and then she's like in a blind trigger, and she goes absolutely blind and limp and screams, and it's like she's turned into a whole other creature. And it's because she got triggered by me. And so I walk her through it. We breathe. We just allow her to feel, because she feels so big and she's going to magnify and bounce back whatever I just threw at her. And her dad will trigger each other that way, because he'll get angry and frustrated because he's not afraid of his anger. and then they just both blow up, and I'm like, whoa. So I think this is just about, first, always compassion for yourself, so that and eventually I did finally, and it's true, you can shift the anger. You can. I was able to move all of my mother's anger and all of my own anger by diligently facing it on purpose before it got triggered and blew up in everybody's face. And I'd go into it regularly and just allow a little bit at a time to be released out of my embodiment. And now I have had zero in over about 2 years. I've had zero issues with random difficult outbursts that are uncontrollable of my own anger. And it's true that you can get there. You can. And I'm watching my husband do the same stuff, and he's getting better. And he said that to me. Have you noticed how I'm not as frustrated anymore? And I said, I really have. Seriously, I have. It's true. And so we can notice these benchmarks and celebrate them and say, you know what, today I noticed that you didn't get upset about anything today. Good job. And you can do that for yourself, your kids, your husband, and everyone. And so there can be this creation and guidance of peace. There's nothing wrong with anger. It's just a frequency, but it can be really challenging and difficult when you feel especially guilty, when you have your moments of full-on Kali fire that comes out. It happens. It's real. And then we can move forward with that. We move forward because of it. And then it doesn't remain as trauma. And that's the key. Then our kids aren't going to be traumatized. We're not going to be, we'll have gone through the full completion of healing it as it occurs. And that's also what we call this lifestyle of light.
A lifestyle of light. Absolutely. So beautiful. Thank you both for that. I know it truly, truly helps. And there is a question. I believe that what you both shared just now actually helps Stacy with her question. I'm going to go ahead and read it in case you guys want to add anything. But she says, I was hoping you guys could help. I'm usually the calm, compassionate, understanding one. But lately, again, here's that word lately, I've had such intense anger and I'm unsure how to shake it. I feel I have to hold back. And because I have two young girls, I know it's not them and I don't want to hurt them. They just trigger it and it's me so much. So any tips to release this? Stacy, we do hope that the conversation helped, but do you guys, Meg or Elizabeth, have anything additional to say for her?
You know, I think the just from the wording, and hopefully this will make sense. The shaking and the releasing is just pointing to how we've been conditioned to not want to feel anger. We want to get rid of it, right? And that's just, I want to point out that we want to make sure that you guys who are listening are hearing that we're not trying to get rid of it. And I understand the releasing, but there's a gift in it, right? This is what we're trying to point to, is there's a hidden gift in the anger. If we can go inside and find the core or the origin, the place where the trigger began, what set you off. And it could be a pattern or a program. And we talk about a lot of this in our program, but as Elizabeth mentioned in the last answer, it could be our own traumatized child who wants to throw a temper tantrum, who wants to be angry. And so I'll just add that sometimes I'll sit and I'll ask myself, you know, in inquiry, you know, how old am I feeling? How old am I feeling right now as this anger is about ready to bubble up? And then go tend to that 14-year-old, that 16-year-old, and make sure that she feels that she's cared for, and how would she like to express her anger, and listen to her and talk to her and allow her to tell you what's at the root, right? What does she remember? When does she first remember being this angry? And I bet it'll take you to a memory within, you know, your childhood, where there was something that wasn't processed. There was some way that she wasn't felt like she was cared for or tended to, and maybe her anger was suppressed and stuffed, and now it's coming out. So good job, it's coming out. Yay, thank you. It's raising itself to the surface. We just want to learn how to tend to it now as adults, to the child inside. And the program that we'll talk about later, addresses a lot of the different ways to do that.
So the question you can ask yourself as well is, what exactly am I angry about? So something usually triggered it. And it can be really general and vague, or it can be very specific or somewhere in between. And then find exactly what the energy of it was. Maybe it was a particularly brutal argument that you saw on social media. Maybe it was a news program. Maybe it was part of a show. Maybe it was something that your daughter said. And look at it, contemplate it, examine it, and then ask yourself, now where is this anger in my body? And you go in, you find it. So perhaps maybe it's here in the high heart. And so you find it, you go in, and here's a little tool I like to use with this. I like to make myself really small. And this is one of the ways I like to find the inner child. So Meg asked the question, how old am I right now? That's one way. This would be another. Sit there, sit in the feeling of it, and ask yourself, what's the first thing I see here? Sometimes you don't see much. Maybe it's just colors. Maybe it's a memory. Maybe there's a shape. Maybe it's just a feeling. So you want to go in and say, well, how exactly does this feel? It feels really heavy and hot. Or it's bright, vivid red and it burns. Or some people will find that their anger is really dense and then it looks really, really tight and dense. And then you're going to go into that and you're going to welcome that. I welcome this here. I welcome this dense hotness here, or this fiery burning here. I welcome you. And then you breathe, because the breath allows you to welcome it. It allows it to dissolve. It'll reveal something else. And then you can ask again, what exactly am I angry about? And you're going to find that behind, along this little thread called your anger, along this little thread, here's the event that had just happened, but there's something behind that and behind that and behind that. That's how trauma works. It's layers. And so you're looking along this little thread, and every little time you ask yourself, how old am I? Or what exactly am I angry about? You'll find something else. And then you'll dig a little deeper. And it's kind of like, I don't know if anybody's had to clean out their drain in the bathtub, right? And you get a little bit of that hair and you pull it and it starts coming out. And it's like this way longer thing than you ever thought was possible. That's how it feels. And it feels also a great relief to be able to notice it, name it, feel it, allow it with gratitude. And when you find those little painful, hurt parts of yourself, differentiate yourself a little bit. What are they wearing? How old are they? What do they need? Ask them, what do you need, 14-year-old me? And then try to meet those needs. Give them a space of love. We can reparent ourselves. We can redo much of the trauma by giving what we were never given. And you'll do it better than anyone, because you know those parts of you better than anybody. So that's very precious. And we do teach about that in our program much more deeply. But I think that those are the things I would say would be great to be added on to when we're doing the private healing and we haven't necessarily blown up and we don't want our kids to see us like that. What do we got to do to make sure we're getting that yucky blockage out and unwrapping it? Because deep inside that giant hairball is actually light. It's actually more expansiveness. And that's when you then finish your process with meditation, to fill it all in and dissolve it in light, to fill in the rest of that space with something new that's much, much more formless. And then it physically feels different too. And I think that'll be a good way to move forward from here.
Mm-hmm. That is the purification process that we are all going through as we ascend on our beautiful, beloved Gaia planet. Wow, thank you so much. You both healed us and are making us feel better already. So many powerful tools for relationships and healing that inner person like no one else can do better than we can. Let's talk about your program now. You are both so generous, and you've got the programs that help people heal it, to see it, to welcome it, to nurture it, to love it free. And you've also got personal time with you. So share with us about this program, because it's very, very helpful for those wishing to go deeper in this work.
I'll begin, Meg, because I have it pulled up, if that's all right with you.
Please.
Okay, so what we wanted to make sure you have is, we believe that the interactive ebook we created, Heal Yourself and Heal the World, is an immersion and it can stand on its own. But we wanted to bolster this and elevate it with some of our favorite ways to serve you. And the interactive ebook itself has 20 hours of video and audio embedded in it. It's not something you're going to read in a day. It's something you're going to absorb slowly, either over a week or many weeks, and it's full of tools of a lifetime. And it's full of a combined something like 40 or plus more years of effort and work that we've done and training that we've done together. So the way we teach is very transparent, as you can see. And I think that this program is the best start for anyone to begin with the very simplest tools and then build up with other tools from there. And that's how I think this whole thing came to be, is because we were called to give this as a big full package of a, do you want to know how we do this work? You don't necessarily need us outside of this package to be able to do the work. If you've got this ebook, it is a complete standalone thing. That being said, working with Meg is a very beautiful, precious thing. Please, if you can, take advantage of this half-hour session she's offering you. I personally could not be in a position where I'm at without Meg's help. And she's been such a great, wonderful friend for me to heal. The compassion and the gentleness is unprecedented. Her essence is dignity. Take that chance to be in the presence of dignity so that you can be elevated and empowered. That's part of what we're offering in this main package. The other piece is that we do realize that having a community is helpful. And so both the call you'll get with me, which is a group call with 4 people max, we'll do a group call with readings for each person. My sessions are different than Meg's, and Meg's will help you really go down deep into a process and get the exact tools you need to really complete it. For me, my group calls, I do seeing for you, so I can look at any one issue. I can help you see what you can't normally see, because my skill is that of a mirror, as a seeing mirror, an oracle. And so the other thing that helps with the community part is we're giving you 3 months of a Slack online community presence. So this community, Meg and I have worked together with a team to build this community up. And we're here together on this community. Some of the people on the call today are actually on the community, and it's on the Slack platform. And it's a special community because we are all dedicated to self-inquiry. And so we're all practicing these tools. It's a perfect place for you to get some support. We've got questions about the tools or issues that show up. Maybe you've got a trauma that's happening in your family and you need a little extra love and support and attention. You come up and you post and you be transparent. And there's all these people who are going to pop up and say, we've got your back, we're sending you love, we're praying for you, we're healing you, we are holding you in light, and they're giving you support. And that's literally happened over the past 24 hours. Someone had something really bad happen, everyone's there to help. That can be really precious. That's part of the package too. The other thing is that I wanted to make sure everyone got this ebook that I wrote called The Fields of Limitation and Limitlessness, because they address some of the 5 big, huge umbrella programs that we've all been taught over eons. For example, the fear of death. Human beings in general have this program, the fear of death. How do you move out of something like that when it's been part of you for eons? Well, there's these 5 programs that, and one of them being the fear of death, that are really, really obvious and apparent in the whole world and all of its cultures over time. And there's ways to move out of those so that they're not ruling your life anymore. And to find this gentle way to get out of jail, basically, or get out of the matrix. The matrix, all that's left of it is inside of us. So it's time for that. And I wanted to make sure you had that so you could think about some of these really big umbrella or like foundational programs that really run the show of trauma. And then the last piece I want to leave to Meg to talk about, because it's a special edition that I'm really excited about called The Seasons of Soul Work. Would you talk to people about that, Meg, and what it is going to help give them?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for your generosity around what I do in sessions. I appreciate that. And I will just caveat and say that this is a whole program that you and I have dedicated so much time and love to, and just our relationship shows through. And that's a really good mapping to have, 2 women who are coming together on a project. And that's just kind of the unmentioned there. because we enjoy working together, we have fun together, and we're very transparent in our stories that we tell in this course. But yeah, I wanted to include this Seasons of Soul Work, which it's near and dear to my heart because I love to help people really get clear about what is their work in the world, or their service, or their creativity. What is the gift that they're here to share? We all know that these are very transformative times. Yet so many people that I meet are hesitant because they're either full of self-doubt, or lack of clarity, or just inner fear. And it's hard to get ideas out in the world. It's hard to know what to do. And so what has come to me over the course of 20 years as I've been on this path myself is a roadmap of sorts, a roadmap that uses the seasons to help you get clear about what is the next step for me to do. Because a lot of us think, oh, and I used to think this a long time ago. I'm like, I just wish I would have tattooed on me somewhere that I could find, this is your mission, Meg, right? This is what you're supposed to be doing with your life. Well, that's not the case. So what I've gotten really clear about is that it's partly about dissolving these structures that we've been talking about this whole past hour, dissolving the worthlessness, dissolving the victimhood, so that we can really get close and clear inside of ourselves to hear what am I here to offer? What is my essence? What are my essence gifts? And then how do I go about taking the action steps, the inspired action steps that are aligned with my essence, so that I'm always just contributing from my essence? And it may take a particular form of service work, or it may take a form of creativity. We don't know that. But this Seasons of Soul Work is a 4-audio course that I did at the beginning of the year, and it's a copy of that, so you can get all the juice of the interaction with folks, plus some PDFs that really help you map where you are and how to take this journey for yourself, so that you can get your gifts out in the world, because we need it. Right now is the time. We need to be getting your gifts and your contributions. So that's the last piece of our program.
Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you for that. These two beautiful healers have that program for you. You can learn all about it. Just scroll down on this webpage that you're viewing, or there's a description link to it wherever you're watching this actual podcast and video. I want to thank you both for the work that you do. We're having comments from people who are joining us that you guys have nailed it today. We've really hit it on the head. And isn't it interesting that we're just feeling this in the last, it seems like Monday was really bizarre in my world. It was like, whoa. And this is where we get better at this. We get better at feeling into the energies the more that we do this. And so it is quite beautiful. And wow, I mean, with all of the energies the way that it is, and things heating up, it's a surrender to love, right? It's like we get to a point where it's like, I see from a bigger picture, people are just going to choose love, right? They're just going to surrender to it. What do you guys feel on that?
Love is the foundation. That is what source it is. It is immobile. It holds the whole universe. All the frequencies we feel, all the anger and the joy and the sadness and the despair, it all is being held by love. And true pure neutrality, which we want to help you get to, and we're always living that lifestyle of, is going to be love. And love is the container of the whole. There is no polarity in love. And that is, I believe, with the energetic of formlessness where we're going. And humans are utterly capable of being bastions of unconditional love. And that's where I think that's where we're headed. And what do you think, Meg?
Yeah, I love that. And I heard inside momentum, like we are gaining a momentum of love. And I really love the feel of that, because that's what it feels like. We are gaining the momentum of love, loving kindness, presence, welcoming, all these words that we've been using today, tenderness. That's gaining momentum. And so it's contagious. The energy is contagious. And so no matter what's happening or appears to be happening in our 3D world, there is this undertow of love that is just starting to seep into different parts of our world that have never been there before. And so I just keep seeing that grow. And that's why this is so important, that we all find our own still center where we are the energy and the essence of true love, love that has no opposites. And then there we go out into the world and it is contagious. It grows momentum. And I don't have a prediction of what's to be held with that, but I just know that it holds great possibilities. And that gets me excited.
I'm very excited too. And we are beginning to see it. We're starting to see the collective demanding it, no longer tolerating the old ways and moving into this momentum of love. It really is beautiful. And we, the people, are ascending with Gaia. That is going to be reflected the rest of the way. And even perhaps even rise above politics or even just love into politics. This is not the conversation for politics, but I think we can rise above and know everyone wants this love. Everyone wants freedom, peace, joy, happiness, health, all of it. So it's beautiful. I love what you said there, Elizabeth, that all that's left of the matrix is simply inside of us. And so this is the great work that we're doing to go so deeply within. And we're hearing reports from people doing that. It's quite wonderful. One thing that I'd like to share as we all move through this journey, because we've seen a thread in the comments of people feeling this anger. And you've helped incredibly today in helping people tune into this a little bit more and go deeper into it. But we also must understand, because I felt this myself too lately, we're opening the gates to new earth and this opportunity now as people go inside more deeply. And yet there is a grieving that could go on. There could be sadness that comes up as well. So as we close our session today, I just want to leave you both with maybe some of what could be done to overcome that sadness, or just allow ourselves the space to really understand that, oh my goodness, we're grieving, right? We're grieving.
Yeah.
Grieving comes in processes, it comes in layers. And there's going to be new ways to grieve. I think that with this mindset shift, noticing grief walk into the room and greeting grief. Hey, grief, you're my old friend. I know you, sadness. You've taught me a lot, and I welcome you. And start there, because you're going to learn more by opening up the grief and opening up the difficult emotions that are simply just walking into the room, so that they can co-create something huge called the evolution of consciousness with you. That's why grief or any other emotion comes. And we can do that with that mindset that I am a creator, a sovereign being of service in this creation of consciousness in relationship with everything else, including grief.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Elizabeth. And I would say that the more that we can hold grief as a great sign, right? Because grief is, we're knowing that we're saying goodbye to something old if we're grieving. And so we're not stuck anymore. So we can hold it with a more of a welcoming presence that, oh, this is a sign that I'm progressing. And as I said earlier, right, since the inner is the outer, we can say that whatever's happening on the inner is also happening on the outer, and vice versa. And sometimes the last of a process, I've found this in myself, the last of a part of a process to look at is the love that I have for even the darkness, or the love that I have for even the pattern or the program or whatever's kept me stuck. Because you know why? Because it's been with me a long time, right? It's my best friend. And I've been looking at this personally myself for a lot of weeks now, which is this relationship that I have with worthlessness and this identity that I still have some sheaths and some pieces left. I have to really look at how much I love it, because it's been my identity for so long. It's kept me safe. It's been a way to really protect me. And I have to have a break with the love affair that I have even for my protections. And there's grief there. There's a sadness, there's a letting go. And it's the same process to turn towards it and to really feel it in the body and to really be present with it. And so it's the same thing with the world. As we're saying goodbye to old patterns, we can kind of hold them in our heart and say, you know, I might have not liked you, but you know what? You were really comfortable. That's how I know the earth to be. And the unknown is really scary. So sometimes I want to hang on, but let me just kind of pry open, right? Pry open my fingers and allow myself to grieve and feel the feelings inside. Tears were coming down yesterday as I was doing this myself, and allow for what's new. Just allow and know that we don't have to do anything, that new sprout is happening already under the ground. And we just keep allowing it to happen and come up itself.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I feel like crying right now. I'm gonna get off here and go tear. No, I'm just kidding. All right, everyone. I'm not going to shove it in. We're going to process this. Everyone, thank you for your processing. As you've seen, these two beautiful healers will assist you in going very deep. They will assist you into returning to this purified home of the love that you are. If it resonates with you, we invite you to check that out. Their program, again, is on this webpage. And then we thank you both so much for this program. It is, oh my gosh, almost 50 years of your work combined, and that is magnificent and truly a roadmap for so many to use and make their life purified and ascended and embodied. I want to thank Meg Archambault, Archambault,
Good.
and Elizabeth Wood, these beautiful healers who have shifted our vibration today. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Loren.
Namaste.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We feel you and we love you. Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.